Welcome again to the Voice a Boy YouTube channel. This is where we impact a man in all spheres of his life by discussing topics that generally affects them either directly or indirectly. Now, during our Mental Monday, we happen to be discussing about dealing with depression and anxiety as men. We happen to have Mr. Sammy Kabugi, founder, Healthy Life Counseling and Consultancy. To begin with, we derived a statistic here from Google that data from the World Bank puts suicide mortality rates in Kenya at 6.1 people in every 100,000, with men being in the highest risk category with 9.1 men in every 100,000 people. So we can't just sit down and watch as our men are getting depressed day in, day out. So let's begin by understanding what is depression. Now, depression is a common and serious medical illness that negatively affects how you feel, the way you think, and how you act. Depression results to feelings of sadness, loss of interest in activities you once enjoyed, and it can also lead to a variety of emotional and physical problems and can decrease even your ability to function at work and at home. Unfortunately, it normally goes undiagnosed because most people do not recognize that they are suffering from depression. Now, researchers and psychologists have not known the exact cause of depression. They think that several factors contributes to it, one of them being brain chemistry, an imbalance of neurotransmitters, which includes serotonin and dopamine. Speaking of dopamine, uh, dopamine has been identified as one of the neurotransmitters that plays a bigger role in this. It plays a role in many important body functions, including movement, memory, and pleasurable reward and motivation. Now, dopamine is responsible for allowing you to feel pleasure, satisfaction, and motivation. And this is why when you feel good that you've achieved something, it's because you have a surge of dopamine in the brain. And high or low levels of the same can result to imbalance in the brain chemistry, thus triggering to the emotional part. Let us try and look at what I've just talked of, serotonin, before we look at signs and symptoms of depressed men. Serotonin in your brain, it normally regulates your mood. It's often called your body's natural feel-good chemical. When serotonin is at normal levels, you feel more focused, emotionally stable, happier and calmer. But low levels of serotonin can be associated with depression. Now, what is the sign and symptoms to note in a man when he's depressed? Number one, constantly angry. He's an angry man. Although depression in men can manifest as sadness and moodiness, it can also come with extreme anger or anger. Typically, everyone avoids an angry man because he's irritable. In the office, he's the boss who is consistently critical of his team and colleagues, and totally nothing seems to please him. At home, his family recalls because he snaps at everyone. His children would rather interact with their mother as opposed to dealing with him. His wife cannot even have a rational discussion with him without being put down. Now, in case you have a man, in this perspective, I'm talking to married women, who is at all times sad and angry after coming from work, or maybe he just rests at the couch and says nothing. He looks troubled. There are others who become constantly absent-minded or come up with stories that are off what maybe you are sharing. That man might be depressed. To give an example, maybe you were talking about let's say a friend's wedding you are about to attend, Then all of a sudden, he starts talking about birds, environment, maybe the coach you are sitting on, something completely off from what you are talking about. That should sound an alarm to you. Number two, he's reckless or develops a compulsive behavior. Now, men with depression engage in appropriate behavior such as, we can say, reckless driving, dangerous sports, or pastimes. Some even gamble their wealth, ignoring the needs of their dependents. They don't care the amount of money they lose. They're just trying to look for a way to offload themselves from the burdens that they are having. Number three, the abusive man. Some men become physically, verbally, and emotionally abusive. They also develop control issues and harass those close to them. They are hypersensitive and lose their sense of humor. Maybe when you got married or when you knew this man, he was very calm. But nowadays he scolds everyone. He scolds the kids. Maybe the kid pours tea or pours some water, but he tends to develop a certain very angry. He even ends up slapping the kid because of very petty and minor issues. That should sound also as an alarm. The man or your husband is not okay. Number four, the workaholic. Now, most men look for something to immerse themselves into, try and cope with depression. For some, they opt to drown themselves in work. This man is always the first one to arrive in the office and the last one to leave. He always carries work at home. Even his supervisors often encourage him to go home and relax. He constantly brushes the unhealthy. He would rather immerse his thoughts in work rather than deal with his mental and emotional problems. Although we are talking about workaholic men, not all workaholics are depressed. We are simply saying that they develop a certain behavior out out they were not like that, but they have just developed this behavior that it was not in them the moment you knew them. That should draw curiosity in you. Number five, alcohol abuse. Alcohol and drug abuse is another common coping mechanism for depressed men, as we insinuate. Unfortunately, drugs and alcohol have a downward spiraling effect in a depressed person. You think because you are depressed, then you drink because you are depressed, then the depression worsens because you realize that you are ruining your life. You then drink even more to drown out the feelings of hopelessness. But of course, it becomes a vicious cycle. Then there is the sickly man. One may experience headaches, unexplained abdominal and chest pain, weight changes. More often, it's normally weight loss, and a racing heart. You experience a lot of heart palpitations. Usually, medical tests do not reveal the cause of the problem, and treatment may conventional means it's often unsuccessful. Most men with depression either sleep too little or sleep too much. They may also lose interest in sex and develop erectile dysfunction. Usually, the decreased libido has nothing to do with their sexual partner. Depression causes one to lose interest in things that were previously enjoyed. Does that ring something to you as a man or as a wife? Number seven, poor work performance. Depression significantly affects one's mental capacity. Depressed men have low concentration levels and are consistently tired, or what you can also call absent-minded. In addition, they are always unhappy and unable to interact with colleagues. All these factors contribute to reduced work performance. Number eight is isolation. Some choose to isolate themselves from friends and family. The usual excuse when confronted about it is, "I've been very busy." In addition, they neglect hobbies and social activities. That should isolation. He has decided now to keep his circle small. In the past, he used to entertain a lot of parties in his house. You'd come along, watch a movie. But nowadays, I have been very busy. I am so caught up with work. That should sound a bell, sound an alarm to you as a friend, as a wife or colleague to that man. You should consider knowing and making a follow up on him. So, most family members and colleagues, we don't usually recognize, depression in men. Even doctors may fail to see the signs of depression in a man because they don't always present it in the classic way. Most men are also reluctant to discuss mental and emotional problems. They have been brought up to believe that it is unmanly and inappropriate, something that we are against. As a man, you should express your emotions, express how you feel in the best way that you feel like. They fear that they will lose the respect of their family, friends, and workmates. For this reason, they often downplay and mask any symptoms of depression rather than come out and ask for help in coping with it. Most Kenyan families resist mental health treatment. They believe that uh, one only visits a psychiatrist if he is mad. We wait until the ship has already sinked. That's when we remember, we had seen these symptoms. That's when now we start running to psychiatrists. Mhm. In addition, most employers have a bias towards employees with mental health or problems. This forces employees to hide their mental health issues from their employers because they risk damaging their careers. Yeah, stigma. There is a lot of stigma surrounding mental illness. No one wants to be labeled as the man with depression. In fact, you are termed as mad. Hmm? Mele tunaita kuchizi. There is little awareness on mental health issues. People do not realize that depression is not different from diabetes or hypertension. All which is needed is treatment. Let's talk about suicide. Now, suicide is often thought of as a cowardice or coward's way out of depression. It is also labeled as selfish and even foolish. In truth, taking one's life is one of the most difficult decisions a man can make. He realizes that his actions will devastate those around him, but he feels that he has no other way out of his misery. Now, clinical depressions can consume one's mind, and the dark thoughts and emotions become too overwhelming. And here I say, if a man around you exhibits suicidal tendencies or attempts suicide, do not put him down or ask him to, suck it up and deal with his emotions like a man. His behavior is a cry for help, and do not ignore it. Even if someone approaches you with a suicidal thought, mi nasikia kujimada, sijui nijilipue, something like that, you shouldn't take it lightly. When the person is given the opportunity, he will manifest, he will put the thought into action. Instead, you should make a follow-up on him or her and purpose to know what's going on with his life. Check on his or her six, as the military will call it. Other common symptoms of depressions are feeling sad or having a depressed mood, loss of interest, we've talked about, change of appetite. It's either you eat too much or you eat too little. You have trouble sleeping, which is called insomnia, or sleeping too much, which is called hypersomnia. Loss of energy or fatigue, increase in purposeless physical activity, slowed movement or speech, the feeling worthless or guilty. I've encountered a depressed man before, and one of the things that you can also use to know if someone is depressed, emphasizing on that point, feeling worthless or guilty, they rarely maintain eye contact when you are talking or when you are having a discussion. You will notice he's concentrating more on the down, whatever is happening down, than what you are telling him. He's easily distracted. He or she is easily distracted. He rarely pays attention or concentrates to what you are discussing about. Sometimes there are others who look like they want to cry, they want to shed tears. When you look at their eyes carefully, you will notice that it's a bit watery. I don't know, but I once encountered a depressed man, and I knew this man is depressed, and it wasn't good, because after all, I noticed, because he was also uh, talking things that are off what we were discussing. So I'm speaking from a point of experience. Depression is one among the most treatable of mental disorders. Between 80% and 90% of people with depression eventually respond well to treatment. Nobody should tell you that once you are depressed, you should wende kwa soko, you should be disposed. They term it depression. In other words, we call it madness. That's madness, yeah. Because now you have been, you've started talking to yourself. You are termed as mad. So we go ahead and dispose you to markets, you know, and we definitely isolate you. Depression is treatable and curable. 80% and 90% of those who have been depressed have responded well to treatment. So there is no need of panicking in case one of the family members or your husband is into depression. Uh, you can take him through psychotherapy. They normally administer what is called cognitive behavioral therapy, which is known as CBT. It has been found to be effective in treating the depression. CBT is a form of therapy focused on the problem solving in the present, and it also helps a person to recognize distorted or negative thinking with the goal of changing thoughts and behaviors to respond to challenges in a more positive manner. It was a 2-hour session. Though I'm not going to record everything that transpired during this, because it's quite long. So how do you help a depressed person? How did I personally help that man that I'm telling you about? Number one, start a conversation. Let your friend know you are for them. You can start the conversation by sharing your concerns and asking a specific questions. Like I was saying, if your friend changes his mood, maybe he used to party before, but right now he is more indoors than before. With the language, I'm too busy. Check on him, stay in touch, and if the person is far, uh, try reaching him through video calls. Right now things are much more easy. Number two, offer to help with everyday tasks. With depression, day-to-day tasks can feel overwhelming. Things like laundry, grocery shopping, and daily works can begin to pile up, making it hard to know where to start. Your friend may appreciate an offer of help, but they also might not be able to clearly say what they need to be helped with. So you can, as a friend, you can purpose to help your fellow friend doing some of the pity or some of the house chores. Recognize that you have a real concern, because there is still a significant stigma and misunderstanding that surround mental illness. People are reluctant and afraid to open up. You must recognize that you have a legitimate concern and reason to get help. Find someone that you feel comfortable talking to. Find the right person to help you through the pain, which is very important. You have to feel comfortable sharing some of your most intimate feelings with that person. So don't settle if it doesn't feel right. It is important to be as open as possible about your symptoms so that you can be properly, and I mean properly, helped. Know that every little bit helps. That's number three. Realize that every little bit counts. If you are dealing with depression, take the time necessary to do something that will brighten your mood or make you feel good, regardless of how minimal a thing it may be. Getting out of bed to do even just a bit of physical activities or going for a walk outdoors is proven to help. Set realistic goals and expectations, and patience is key when you are setting this. Treatment takes time and effort, and you owe it to yourself to be your own biggest advocate. Allow yourself to find the path that will work best for you without comparing to others. Everyone has their own goals and expectations, and it's important to set those that fit best in your life. Don't put targets or goals that definitely you cannot, it is difficult to achieve. So that is the end. We shall conclude our this video here. But if you want to get more help, in case you are depressed, or you know of a depressed person, you can contact Mr. Sammy Kabugi for professional help via this number 07936724. See you in our next video. I hope you have enjoyed this session.